gelen es parman udah air sudah naik setinggi
banjir. Esparman.
harus lumayan keras. Ini kalau untuk dimasuki nggak bisa.
Meter lebih.
Drain systems were overwhelmed by the volume of rain, fast moving water filled the streets, washing away vehicles and knocking down pedestrians. Homes were flooded, destroying possessions. As floodwaters subsided, debris filled the streets as residents assessed the extent of the flood's impact. Storm weather over the following days has resulted in further flooding, as well as a tornado water storm which hit the city of Atmore, destroying homes. Warnings remain in place in several areas across the state as the storm weather continues, with fear of flooding impacting over the coming days.
Masuk kuanzia. Sai mulaki. Wewe mbele gani?
noon, a woman who survived the EF4 tornado that killed her mother, husband, and 2 children earlier this month is out of the hospital. The Madison County Sheriff's Office posted their pictures on the Facebook page of their visit with 𝐄𝐲𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 and her son Bryson on Monday. 𝐄𝐲𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 also met with the 911 dispatcher who spoke with her on the phone when she called for help after the tornado struck. The tornado that barreled through Madison County on March 5th killed a total of 6 people. Now, all of those deaths happened along Carver Road, just south of Winterset. That tornado was on the ground for 70 miles before lifting near Newton, and it packed winds of up to 170 miles an hour. The cleanup is far from over in Madison County, but it is on hold for today due to the weather. Emergency management says they are still in need for volunteers for cleanup tomorrow.
This was one of the most urgent 911 calls after the tornado, and for more than a half hour, a dispatcher from Union County stayed on the phone with 𝐄𝐲𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢.
We have 2 comm centers. We have 2 dispatch centers that can run at the same time here. Normally, we only have 1 dispatcher on duty and 1 comm center up and going.
Valid 1074 with a Class C.
Normally, that's enough, but the evening of March 5th was anything but normal. About 90 911 calls came into the Madison County Dispatch Center right after the tornado. Sheriff Jason Barnes says the system is designed to send calls to other counties in the event of such an emergency.
We only have so many phone lines like anybody. We all have a we're limit. Set up for if we fill that limit up, our calls will spill over into other counties and then their comm center will field it.
That's how 𝐄𝐲𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢's call wound up going to Scott Geimer in Union County. He stayed on the phone with her and let first responders in Madison County know where to go.
He kept on that phone the whole time, while his phone's ringing too with his own stuff going on.
Barnes says that was the first time the dispatch center had to rely on neighboring counties to keep up with all the calls.
I'm very, very happy with the way everything unfolded for us. That's how it's supposed to be, and it worked.
There's no doubt 𝐄𝐲𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 and her son will have tough days ahead, but in their most dire moment, a dispatcher from out of the county stayed on the line until help arrived.
You could tell they built a rapport during that phone call, and I have no doubt they'll probably always know each other going forward.
We're driving 1,000 miles a day some days to go and get these animals.
The only group like it on the front lines in Ukraine rescuing animals from a war zone.
We're reuniting people with animals that have lost their husbands, lost their children, lost their houses, lost their country, lost their job. They've got nothing left apart from the hope of this dog that they love.
Tom is with the organization Breaking the Chains, talking with us from about an hour south of Kyiv in a stranger's home, kind enough to let him shower for the first time in a week. He and his team, all former British military who saw combat, coming to Ukraine when the bombing began. Tuesday, they saved 120 animals from a shelter that was hit with airstrikes twice. It's a mile from the red zone.
We also had 23 IDF strikes during the time we was loading up the animals and resupplying them in and around the location of the shelter. So that was interesting.
They're working with shelters across Europe to get animals safely across the border and reuniting any pets with refugee families.
It could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 2 weeks. We don't know. But basically when it ends and we've helped rebuild.
And now they're assisting with a struggling children's hospital.
We won't just ignore people because we're here to help animals. We'll help who we can.
The kids are too sick and can't flee. He says supplies are dwindling, some gone. No medication to treat children with seizures brought on by anxiety from airstrikes.
No matter what happens, if it gets to a point where they can't move and they're surrounded, me and the team will be in there with them to make sure that they're all right. and we won't leave them.
This weekend, 2 U.S. veterans will join the cause alongside Tom, who left behind his own family, 2 daughters, for this calling.
There is no animal that's more compassionate and loving than a dog. And if we learn and we showed that love and compassion daily that dogs show to us as humans, then the world would be a far better place, and we most certainly wouldn't be in the position that we're in now.
If you want to help, head to this story at fox2detroit.com. Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Some folks in 𝐄𝐩𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 County are being evacuated after a brush fire sparked in a dry riverbed. This is just coming into 𝐄𝐩𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 9. The 𝐄𝐡𝐡 County Sheriff's Office says it's mostly burning in brush areas near Bowers and Sanders Road. That's near 𝐄𝐻𝐻𝐿a City. Multiple departments are working on putting out that fire. We'll keep you updated on those efforts and let you know any more developments throughout this newscast and, of course, online.
𝐄𝐻𝐻 Health is closing parts of Delaware County Memorial Hospital, although it says it is a temporary measure. 𝐄𝐻𝐻 Health will suspend its intensive care unit and surgery by May 31st. It will also close hospital-based outpatient services by April 5th. The health system blames COVID for causing ongoing staffing issues across the industry. The Pennsylvania Association of Nurses and Allied Professionals criticized the move. In a statement, it said, "This is a decision clearly motivated by financial considerations and not by what's best for patient care."
The possibility of a 4th shot. Pfizer working to submit data to the FDA on a 4th dose of its COVID-19 vaccine.
And anchor Abel Garcia joins us live in studio to explain why Pfizer has made this decision and what local medical experts have to say about this, Abel.
Yeah, Tricia and Dave, experts say the protection from the first 2 doses of Pfizer has gone down significantly, and the protection from the initial booster began to decrease after 3 or 4 months. So now the medical company is looking at a 4th shot. Many may have to roll up their sleeve once again as Clark County's COVID positivity continues to go down.
I wish I could tell you that the worst is behind us and that we're done, but it's not the case.
Chief Medical Officer at Southern Hills Hospital, Dr. William Fernandez, says right now the focus needs to be elsewhere.
The most important thing is, we have a ton of people in town that still haven't been vaccinated. So more importantly, it's important to go out and get your first 2 shots, and then if you have medical comorbidities, certainly consider getting a booster before anything else.
Pfizer has sent in data to the FDA on the 4th dose of its COVID vaccine. Experts say as a result of a decrease in protection from the first 3 doses, a 4th one may now be necessary. Dr. Fernandez says a certain group should talk to their doctor about this.
Folks who are immunocompromised, folks undergoing chemotherapy, people who have other issues relating to their immune system.
Some, like Joey DeGraw, say they don't think it's necessary.
I'm not going to get it. I had COVID, and I don't think that the numbers back up the threat.
Dr. Fernandez says these shots do have benefits to your health.
It does prevent hospitalization, ICU admission, and serious complications, including death.
He says he does not have a crystal ball, but he says a rollout of a new vaccine may be a regular thing.
An endemic condition where we have to get annual vaccines. It's too soon to tell, and the best we can do is just to stay vigilant and get your vaccine.
8 feet. That's how far away you'd have to be from police to record them if a new bill at the legislature becomes law.
And some now calling the bill unconstitutional. Tonight we have team coverage on how this bill could impact you and how some plan to fight back.
We begin with our Mark Phillips.
Citizen use of cell phone cameras to record police conduct is commonplace. Recently, a video of Phoenix police officers confronting 4 men during a stolen car investigation surfaced when one of the officers struck a 13-year-old girl after she failed to comply with police requests to move back.
This bill doesn't stop anybody from getting a good picture.
During the incident with police, officers asked a group who had moved in to record the events to back away.
My bill balances the need to protect police officers from danger and to preserve evidence from being destroyed or discarded with the recognized constitutional right of people to film police officers performing their duties.
Kavanaugh has made changes to the bill, reducing the distance someone can record police from 15 to 8 feet and allowing a person to video record their own police encounter. But the ACLU says even with the changes, the law is still unconstitutional.
It is still an unconstitutional limitation on the very clearly established First Amendment right of members of the public to record police.
The bill goes before the Senate Rules Committee Monday. If it thinks it's constitutional, the full Senate will decide it later in the week. On its journey through the legislature, only Republicans have voted for this bill. Mark Phillips, ABC 15, Arizona.
The bill's sponsor says his intent is to prevent police from being distracted at crime scenes, but so-called cop watchers say it violates their First Amendment rights. ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius talks to two of them who say the law won't change what they do.
They're just creating a law right now just to control us because they don't like what we're doing.
Chris Ruff has millions of views on his DirectD YouTube page, and Darian Barrett's from Tempe Against Police Violence.
Mine's rolling too, you're live streaming.
Some may find their actions annoying and disrespectful.
I'm going right here, I'm going next to the police cars.
If you refuse to listen to us, you're going to go to jail.
But the cop watchers say that their actions, using their cell phones to videotape police out on the streets and even to argue with officers, are protected by the First Amendment's freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom to protest.
It's my constitutional right to film the police. I'm going to film them regardless because we don't need another incident like George Floyd that's not caught on camera.
In 2016, there was no video when a Tempe police lieutenant fatally shot Dalvin Hollins. That was Darian's best friend. And that's why he's a cop
lightning
watcher.
blamed for a house fire in Gwinnett County. Fire officials releasing these pictures saying a close lightning strike set this house on fire in Snellville. We're told flames took over the second floor and attic there while also causing a lot of damage to the first floor. Everyone made it out, though, without getting hurt, and they are now getting assistance from the American Red Cross.
Start in the city of Campbell, where there is still a very active fire scene as firefighters are trying to contain a building fire right now. KRON 4's Charles Clifford standing by live for us with how firefighters are doing to contain the fire and what exactly is burning right now.
Yeah, right now I'm in Campbell. This is Winchester Boulevard, and the fire still burning about 5 hours now. Right back there, you can kind of see the column of smoke coming up like this. It's burning near Knowles and Dell right back in there, and we're seeing some black smoke, which means some of the heavier fuels like wood, that stuff is still burning. Fire crews tell me this fire could keep going well into the late afternoon or evening hours. Santa Clara County Fire was the first to arrive on scene. They quickly declared this a 2-alarm fire, brought in additional crews. This is a 50,000-foot square building, about 3 stories tall. It is vacant and actually scheduled to be demolished at some point in the near future. Now, this fire eventually escalated to 4 alarms. Additional crews were brought in from San Jose. The Campbell Police Department was here doing crowd control in the area. This is a mostly business district, not a lot of homes in the immediate area. Fire crews quickly fell into a defensive posture to protect structures nearby.
They made an aggressive interior attack on the fire that lasted approximately 30 minutes and went to 2 alarms. At that point, we decided to go defensive on the fire because of the life risk and the hazard that it presented to the firefighters.
Now, as we head into late afternoon on Friday, fire crews say they expect to be here for quite some time until the fire dies down. They'll probably be here overnight, keeping an eye out for any hot spots. If you're anywhere near the intersections of Knowles and Dell here in Campbell, keep in mind there could be some traffic delays late Friday afternoon, probably into late evening. All right, back live now. Crews also tell me that to the best of their knowledge, no one was inside the building when it caught fire. They have not found anyone who's been injured. As for the exact cause of this fire, that's still under investigation. But for now, in Campbell, Charles Clifford, KRON 4 News.
Thank you so much, Charles.
For your
We
health
appreciate
tonight,
that
on the
live.
heels of COVID vaccine maker Pfizer, Moderna has now asked the FDA to authorize a 4th shot. But while both requests came just this week, they are vastly different. KRON 4's Dan Kerman explains.
This week, drug makers Pfizer and Moderna both asked the FDA to authorize a second booster dose of their COVID-19 vaccines. But while Pfizer's request was for those 65 and older, Moderna's request was for all adults 18 and over.
It's going to depend upon how robust the data is from Pfizer and Moderna. If they've got really good data in large enough numbers, then maybe we will have enough to make some decisions.
But so far, infectious disease specialist Dr. John Schwartzberg says the data on a second booster is a mixed bag. And doctors say that 4th jab may only be needed for older people.
It is that patient population that essentially may have good cellular immunity, but they need higher levels of antibodies.
to prevent severe disease and may not have as good of cellular immunity as younger people.
Dr. Monica Gandhi is an infectious disease specialist at UCSF.
This is the science for now. The things that would change the equation away from just looking at the age of the patient for a fourth shot is if we had another variant, and that variant really drove up cases. Now, it depends on where the mutations in that variant are.
But for now, doctors say 3 shots is doing the job for most, even if there are breakthrough infections.
These vaccines are still protecting us against hospitalization and death, which is frankly everybody's major concern.
It's likely the FDA will take up these requests in April. Dan Kerman, KRON 4 News.
You've probably heard before, there is no safe level of lead.
Also dangerous when consumed, cadmium.
Like lead, it's a similar metal. It melts at a relatively low temperature, and it's heavy and can be somewhat formable, shapeable.
While deaths are rare, when these metals are detected in blood, there can be long-term harm, especially in kids' cognitive development. It's not always reported, but knowing there have been cases in Minnesota,
We have had specific situations where children have gone to the hospital as a result of it.
the State Pollution Control Agency started an investigation.
We purchased children's jewelry online, a lot of different platforms, but also in person in stores in Minnesota, usually big box stores. What we found was really high levels of cadmium, which were 30, 50, 75, 90%. That's a really high amount.
Now they're proposing legislation.
Under current law, certain toys and jewelry are prohibited to have both of these toxic metals in them. Our proposal to the legislature is to ban lead and cadmium and these other things, whether it's cosmetics or personal care items, pots and pans, dishes, or things such as clothing.
In the meantime, here's what you can do.
Help keep kids from putting things in their mouth that may contain lead and cadmium. But also if you have inexpensive toys or jewelries and they are damaged or worn, throw them away.
Kaya Edwards, KARE 11 News.
Federal interest rates are on the rise, hoping to reduce the effects of inflation. But what will the new rates do to your savings account? Higher interest rates typically lead to higher yields on savings accounts, but you won't necessarily see these rates kick in immediately. CDs and high-yield savings accounts typically show delayed reactions to increases in the federal funds rate. Think weeks, not months. Since interest rates are coming off historic lows, some of the best yield savings accounts are only making 0.5% interest. An increase on those yields to reward savings is unlikely, as it would cost the banks money.
The organization is demanding the city of Elizabethton remove 3 iconic crosses because they are on public property. WJHL's 𝐄𝐩𝐡𝐞𝐬𝐢 explains why many local residents say the organization calling for the change doesn't share the same views as their community on the crosses.
It's a familiar sight to many in Elizabethton, the 3 crosses on Lynn Mountain overlooking the city. But a Wisconsin nonprofit wants the city to take them down.
They are crosses up there by themselves. They seem to have a pretty obviously Christian message.
Karen Heineman is a legal fellow for the Freedom from Religion Foundation, advocating for the separation of church and state. The foundation reached out to the city in 2018 after receiving a complaint from a resident, but the city has not responded since. Heineman says the land on top of Lynn Mountain is owned by the city. Several city leaders say the same. But the foundation says the crosses being on city property violates a clause in the Constitution prohibiting the establishment of religion by any government.
They have no other obvious meaning or other messages with them, and it sends, I think, a pretty obvious message of endorsement of Christianity.
David Rourke has seen those crosses almost every day of his life. He doesn't want to see them go.
I hope they don't have to do that. My faith is I believe in it, and I don't see anything wrong with it myself.
On the foundation website, it confuses a second set of crosses showing a Jesus is Lord banner with the ones on Lynn Mountain. But those are not on Lynn Mountain, and Lynn Mountain does not display a banner at all. That seemed to surprise Heineman.
It followed a link to those crosses, so that's interesting.
A Mount Juliet man wakes to find a massive hole in his front yard. Drainage problems caused the mess, but he says the city won't do anything to fix it. News 2's Chelsea Beinfor shows us the damage and explains why city officials aren't taking responsibility.
Right down here, You can even see where the water has pooled.
Brett Butler shows us a massive hole in his Mount Juliet front yard.
You know, I'm 5'7", so and it's already up here to my waist, and I could literally crawl in there and sleep.
He's lived in the home on Sunset Drive since 2019, and last month he spotted a small hole that's grown into a big problem.
As it grows and gets bigger, and it gets close to the base of the house, I'm afraid that the structural integrity of the home will have problems.
A large drainage pipe runs from the street sewer towards Butler's backyard.
The pipes collapsed and caused basically the water to overflow, go up against it, and erode the ground around it.
The hole in Butler's yard is not the only problem in the neighborhood. You can see here where drainage is eroding another hole near this storm drain on Sunset Drive.
A little upset, a little angry. I think I'm more disappointed than anything else.
Butler says he's called and emailed the city asking for help, but was told he is responsible for fixing the damage. Here's what Mount Juliet City spokesman Justin Beasley told us. The city doesn't maintain storm systems on private property. Until we have a funding mechanism like a stormwater utility to do so, we don't have the resources to fix private drainage issues. We have investigated the issue and have been in communication with the homeowner via email. The issue has yet to be finalized with the homeowner. Butler says he doesn't think that's fair.
I don't think it's fair at all. I mean, obviously it's the drainage, and you can see it from the sewer that goes into where the hole's at, and I feel that they should take responsibility for it. I just feel like that the city could do more and, you know, help the citizens, especially during a struggle like we are in now.
Reporting in Mount Juliet, Chelsea Bimeford.
The plume of thick black smoke could be seen across the city as an industrial building burned today.
Some people even capturing those flames at Barberton Steel Industries on camera. Now, that massive fire started around noon today.
News 5's Nadine Abusada talked to the owner of the business and a worker as firefighters worked to put out the flames.
In Barberton off Van Buren, you could see fire officials still working to make sure a fire is put out that was so large earlier today. It was behind that building. You could see the flames from where I'm standing. At Barberton Steel Industry, workers were going about their regular workday when they saw this.
I looked out the back garage door and my old maintenance building was already engulfed in flames.
And they just came and called to me, hey, the building's on fire. I go, what? And I ran back there and it was totally engulfed.
The building went up in flames around noon with about 30 employees on the property. Officials say no one was injured.
I was happy that nobody got hurt, and I was happy I got everybody out when I did. I was happy none of them explosives actually exploded like they could have.
But for the building?
But the building's gone. You can't see it from here, but there's no building left back there. It's just a steel structure that's melted.
The owner, Jim Kravanik, tells News 5 that the building was usually vacant and filled with machines.
Motors, some equipment, our lift, some patterns, our Spectra labs, stuff that we use to operate the rest of the foundry.
But it burning down will still hurt business.
It's going to hurt us really bad. I mean, that we can't pour any metal if we can't check the chemistries on the steel.
I can't afford to be shut down very long. We're too busy.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation, and for Jim, he says they're going to be renting equipment until
still on the scene of the Walmart distribution center fire, monitoring the air and water to make sure families nearby are safe. They've confirmed the smoke does have high levels of a fine substance that could be harmful to people with pre-existing heart and lung conditions. Fox 59's Courtney Crown explores whether neighbors should be concerned.
The fire this week at the Walmart distribution center in Plainfield certainly captured the attention of this area as the workplace of 1,000 people burned.
I thought it was going to be handled a lot sooner than this. I didn't think it'd get this bad.
The scene looks nothing like the dramatic display we witnessed Wednesday afternoon. Now investigators work to evaluate whether this smoke and debris landing in nearby properties poses health concerns.
Mostly the fine particulate material is, it can be adverse, to public health.
Health experts say they will continue monitoring and sampling the air over the next few days to determine the chemicals that could have spread in the smoke.
In order to really look and compare against any specific health levels, we're gathering information over a period of time to look at truly the overall impacts of this. And then we have people going out, looking at the debris fields, understanding what it is.
The Environmental Protection Agency referred to a list of FAQs, which are posted online. The list reports smoke from this fire does contain high levels of fine particulate material, and exposure to high levels of this can cause health problems for people with heart and lung problems, young children, and older people.
We need to get the information as to where did all this debris and smoke, where is it going, how is it lingering?
The EPA advises people to wear gloves and a mask if they feel a need to clean up debris in their yards. Also, health experts advise washing your hands after you touch any debris.
If you're picking up debris, we'd like you to wear gloves and a respirator because it's really fine material.
The EPA says investigators should know some results regarding air and water quality on Saturday. Courtney Crown, Fox 59 News.
Citizens Energy says they do not expect ash and debris to impact drinking water, but they are testing it. So we will post a link to the list of health recommendations. It's online right now at fox59.com.
You might be tired of hearing about the dangers of COVID at this point in the pandemic, but many people feel it's time to relax. But there are other people who are still getting infected for the first, second, even third time. Researchers now looking at how your four-legged furry family member might be playing a role.
We know that this virus can jump species.
So you can get COVID-19 from your dog or cat?
The only case where we've seen noted and recorded animal-to-human transmission is in mink.
When it comes to dogs and cats, there have been no documented cases of animal-to-human transmission. However, there have been a few cases of humans transferring COVID to their household dog or cat. Cats more likely will become infected than dogs.
Currently, the Centers for Disease Control suggests that the animals that we have at our home, that we share our homes with, should be treated like other human family members. So if we are sick, we should isolate away from them as much as possible.
Avoid kissing, petting, snuggling, and sleeping in the same bed as your pet if you've become infected with COVID-19. And limit your pet's contact outside of the household. However, don't put a mask on your pet and don't wipe them down with chemical disinfectants, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, hand sanitizers, or other cleaners. And since pets do contract COVID, have symptoms that are very mild, such as coughing, sneezing, or diarrhea, experts say it's very unlikely there will be a vaccine available for dogs and cats.
Looking a lot more like COVID vaccine mandates will not be banned in Iowa businesses. A bill that would outlaw the mandates failed to get enough votes last night in the Iowa House. Republicans deferred that measure and amendment, meaning it could still be considered. That amendment would have banned businesses from requiring workers to get the COVID-19 vaccine and would have capped damages in lawsuits involving commercial vehicles. House Speaker Pat Grassley has said there is more work to do on this issue.
And several animal welfare groups are celebrating after a federal judge struck down an Iowa law that was seeking to stop animal welfare groups from secretly filming livestock abuse. The so-called ag-gag law would have punished individuals who conduct undercover investigations of animal neglect or abuse in order to report those animal abuses. Meanwhile, farmers argue intruders could track in disease and want to unfairly portray their livestock. This is the second time a court has ruled against these kinds of measures. Similar laws have already been struck down in the states of Kansas, Utah, and Wyoming. Officials tonight have confirmed now the second case of bird flu in northwest Iowa. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship says they found the case in a flock of commercial layer chickens. This is the second case now in Buena Vista County. That first case was found in a turkey flock at the beginning of this month. Iowans are asked to report sick birds to the State Department of Agriculture if they come across one.
University of Pennsylvania swimmer Leah Thomas taking first place in the NCAA 500-yard freestyle. She is the first transgender athlete to be crowned NCAA champion, but not without controversy because critics say she has an unfair physical advantage over the other swimmers and should not have been allowed to compete. Now, second place went to University of Virginia swimmer Emma Wyant, who won a silver medal in last year's Tokyo Olympics. She's getting an outpouring of support on social media, with some calling her the true winner. And we saw, Lauren, at that medal ceremony, the crowd was virtually silent when Leah Thomas was announced the winner, the first place winner, and yet they went crazy cheering for the second place
because
winner.
Leah Thomas went through puberty, right, as a boy. She has bigger lungs, bigger arms, bigger hands, and now she's competing against women who don't have that physically. So they viewed the second place winner
Emma Wyant as the first place winner. I think this is a major issue for so many athletes, so many parents out there who are raising athletes, because the rules of the game are changing and we're figuring out what they should be. Should transgender athletes have an asterisk next to their name if they win, right? Because Leah was like number 467 when she competed as a male. Now she's number 1 as a female. I mean, it's a tough issue, and I think it's going to be an election issue as well.
And 𝐤𝐻𝐚𝐧𝐬, so Martina Navratilova, a tennis legend, came out, sort of said the exact same thing. She said maybe the solution in the interim is that you're honoring the decisions of these transgender athletes, but you're not negatively affecting those who have worked so hard to get where they are. So maybe you put an asterisk by the name, you reserve medals, you come up with some type of interim solution in the gray area right now, Joe.
That's not a bad idea at all. And if the producers just put up that full screen real quick, if you could, the first full screen showing the 3 swimmers, because that really hits home in terms of the advantage, right, that we're seeing here. And look, my wife is a former Division I athlete, right? And look at that, guys. And she would tell me about the training regimen that she had to go through in terms of being on the track team at her school, on top of being pre-med. It's just such an overwhelming commitment. And for these girls that are competing, knowing when they go into a competition that they're going to lose, because one person they're competing against has a decided physical advantage. It's a whole bowl of wrong. But if you criticize this, somehow you're anti-trans somehow. Of course not. It's just a matter of asking for a level, competitive playing field, and I don't see why that's controversial in any way.
And Harris, we have parents, actually a video of them that spoke with Fox Digital earlier, and they sort of made that same point. They said this isn't really the right place to honor those decisions of transgenders because it's negatively impacting the biological females that have worked so hard. We'll play a bit.
We do not support a biological male swimming in the women's championship meet against females. It is an unfair advantage.
He's a human. We should respect that and what he wants to do with his life, but this isn't the place to do it. It's taken opportunity away from females that have worked very, very hard for a long, long time, even before college, to get in this position, and it's just not right.
So I think it is worth saying again, this is not about a lack of love for transgender community. It's about also honoring who they are and their journey. Maybe either an asterisk or a separate but equal division.
There will be a time for every activity and a time for every deed. Ecclesiastes 3:17. Jesus is the way to heaven.